Okay, we ready?
Yes.
This week on Music Life with Mike, we've got an amazing show. We've got Bryce Herman from the Kamloops community going to be talking about some amazing stories about Kamloops and the restaurateur business. We've got Craig E. Jones, who's going to be talking about a book he wrote about some very interesting BC instruments, one of the picks from the ceiling of our family's music store. But first, please give it up for a good friend of mine, Paul Filek. Take it away.
Thank you. Wake up and smell the roses. Time's not on your side. Give it your all before it closes. Don't just hang on for the ride. Wake up wherever you are. This life is too short to hang on to your scars. Scream out, break out, whatever it takes. Nobody's perfect, we all make mistakes. Be free, be free, be free. Spread your wings and fly for me with open arms. Carry on and be a dreamer. Life can pass you by. The grass isn't always greener. Take the wheel and drive. Wake up wherever you are. This life is too short to hang on to your scars. Scream out, break out, whatever it takes. Nobody's perfect, we all make mistakes. Be free, be free, be free. Spread your wings and fly for me with open arms. Be free, spread your wings, fly. Hoo, 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 Kamloops. Hey, thank you.
All right, so at the top of the show, we had mutual friend Paul Filek playing, and he's always a gas. Got lots of stories. You'll hear lots from Paul coming up here pretty quick. My next guest, and first guest really of the day, is...
That worked smooth.
That was smooth, eh? Let's try that out again.
Yeah.
That was good.
I thought it was off the cuff.
Did you
Isn't that
see
what we
me
want?
switching?
I thought you wanted this to be normal, natural, kind of
All
go
right,
with the
all
flow.
right, we can go with it if you really want.
I don't care.
This is Bryce Herman. Bryce Herman has been in the council committee for as long as I can remember. We've done all sorts of things together, from Rocky Mountaineer Railways. He's a food and beverage manager for all sorts of different events, and just a musical supporter of the arts and music in Kamloops. And I'm proud to have my friend Bryce Herman here, and we're going to reminisce about some of the stuff that we've done and what he's doing now. Welcome, Bryce. And
Thanks, Mike. Great to be here.
yeah, you know, while I was just talking, I was thinking about some things about like the early days of Rocky Mountaineer and
yeah.
In the Tent, if you can remember that. And,
I do. I remember it fondly.
yeah, it just, I think there was like Steve Saba back in those days. Tina Moore was singing back in those days.
Absolutely, yeah. She was female lead. And
Yeah, and it was fantastic. And that was like in the mid-90s.
yeah, and you know what? That was a really interesting time too, because I mean, there was a lot of things that had to be done to make that happen because we were in the park. You know,
In a tent?
In a tent, and 50,000 square feet of tent. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a big production, and running on a gen set, and you know, we're running a huge AC unit because, of course, the trains run in the summer. So you know, I mean, people traveling from all over the world, they show up in this big, you know, cavernous tent, and so we're running a big swamp cooler. So my day getting started was usually I fueled up the gen set, and then I'd go and throw, you know, massive amounts of big blocks of ice in this big pond we had that circulated the water through the swamp cooler.
Sure, yeah.
So my day as food and beverage was more of a maintenance man.
Maintenance man, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And mouse killer.
and
mouse killer. Yeah,
tons
'cause I mean-
of mice down there. We had our
Oh.
guitar factory just down this,
Yeah.
right on the other side of the park from there, and we had tons of mice.
Yeah.
And we had all sorts of humane ways of catching them and letting them go at our competitions place, you know.
You didn't let them go at the tent, did you? Because I had a small infestation there.
maybe. Actually, it was probably several generations later that I was seeing them.
Okay.
But I think that was the first time that we worked together, because I moved back to Kamloops in '95.
Yeah.
Have you been in Kamloops?
I was born and raised here.
Oh, really? Me too. So you're born and raised here, so
Yep.
so that's really cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Have you always been in food and beverage? What's your story?
Yeah, my story is that that's how I started. I started in food and beverage.
At the Keg?
Yeah, I mean, that was, but before that, I actually had my own place
Okay.
on Tronquil, and I was at 417 Tronquil Road. I had a sandwich shop there, submarine sandwiches. So
Yeah.
like Subway, Subweiser, all those ones
what
that
was it
came
called?
afterwards. And it was called Sammy Sub.
Sammy Sub. Okay.
Sammy
yeah.
Sub. Big yellow Volkswagen that I drove around with a big sandwich painted down the side with eyes and a tongue hanging out of it. And it was pretty funny, actually.
All right.
But yeah, I used to provided a number of gas stations and corner stores, that type of thing, with sandwiches.
Yeah.
So I did a large amount of wholesale, and that was kind of my mainstay. I only had about 25 seats in my restaurant on the storefront,
Yeah.
and the wholesale really became the strength of my business, and I did more of that than anything else, and then the storefront was Gravy Train.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So then from there, you got involved with the Keg. Which was, I've heard stories from the day, and that was
I never
pretty-
heard any of those. And the answer is no, I know nothing
Nothing
about it.
about it, you know. So I feel like the movie Waiting was based on those days at the Keg.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Right?
You know what? I have to say the Keg days were probably some of the best days of my life.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. There was a lot of things that changed within the Keg system while I was there, and certainly no big surprise to many who are a little older that frequented the Keg in the early days. I mean, it was all about parties central, and you know, staff were able to drink on the job. You know, there was a number of things that went on behind the
Wow.
scenes that were condoned at the time. You know,
Looking back, it's-
HR professionals today would roll over and go, "Are you kidding me?"
What?
And I go, and of course I'm married to an HR specialist, so
Yeah.
yeah, she just looks at me and goes, "Yeah, that wouldn't fly today." And I go, "Oh, I wouldn't even try today."
So on a quick thought, I was in the Keg in Montreal, right downtown, the BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada.
Right.
I won an award with them, so I'm up there with the president, talking way out of my league, and they invited me for lunch.
Right.
So we went down to the main floor, which we had a Keg in it, and I'm looking at the menu, and it's got the Billy Miner steak on it, and I was like, Billy Miner steak. So I started questioning about it, and I found out that the owner or somebody that puts the menu together actually lives in Kamloops or is from Kamloops. There's a Kamloops connection.
There was a huge Kamloops connection. I mean, there was Billy Miner pie on the menu
Yeah.
at the Keg, a number of those things, and there was a connection to it with some good friends of George Tidball originally. And so that was the connection to Kamloops. And of course, Kelly Norden was one of the early starters in the day. And God love him, he's no longer with us. But Kelly, or as we used to commonly refer to him as K-Dog, he was a great connection. And the connection with that was that when George Tidball originally came to Canada, he brought McDonald's to Canada.
Oh.
So he was an accountant by trade. He came to Canada and he bought the Canadian franchise, all of Canada, for $50,000.
Wow.
So he opened up 33 stores across Canada, and when that was completed, he sold it back to McDonald's, and McDonald's Canada was formed. And so then he had this pocket full of money, And what did he know? Well, he knew food and beverage, he knew control systems because of being an accountant as well as working within McDonald's. And he went, hey, there's this big gap between fine dining and casual dining, which really was family dining.
Yeah.
And he said, there's this big gap, and I think we can actually fill that gap. So upscale casual was born. And so the Keg and Cleaver was that exact thing, which then got, morphed down to being called the Keg, and when the Cleaver portion kind of dropped off the primary use of logo and everything else. But that's how it got started, and so he expanded that, and then of course the story goes on again, and expanded, and then sold out that chain.
So from a quarter pounder to some of the best steaks I've ever had.
Exactly.
Quite funny.
Exactly. And so that connection with Kelly Norden, who was here in Kamloops, he was his very first employee in McDonald's in Vancouver when he opened up the first place.
Wow,
Yep.
amazing. So Kamloops connection all over Canada Kegs all across Canada.
Absolutely, and in the U.S. as well.
And so I'm very proud of that. Everything Kamloops, I really go Kamloops.
Wave that banner, even if it was a bad guy. We'll
exactly.
use Billy Miner.
And Billy Miner, as we both know, because it was a star of the show that we both worked at for many years with the Rocky Mountaineer, which is another great Kamloops company. They had Billy Miner, who robbed the train and coined the phrase
hands up.
Hands up.
Yep.
So that's pretty neat. Legend has it there's a hoard of money in the hills somewhere here.
I've heard that. I'm not sure if that's really true. Certainly his old hideout is still off the side of the highway, and you can see it back in the hills.
Near Monty Creek there?
Yeah, by Monty Creek. Yeah. So, so you kind of think about that kind of stuff. And I had an old friend of the family who was a magistrate in Chase way back in the day. And he was, an older judge at the time, but he remembers bringing Billy Miner in. Yeah. And I remember as a kid hearing those stories, and he talked about him, and he was kind of the Robin Hood of thieves. He was loved by children. He was a bit of a womanizer. He loved women. And so he'd come to town when he got arrested, and he was handing out candy to the kids. So
he was a hero.
He was a hero.
That's all right.
So, pretty interesting guy.
So from there, we've worked together on all sorts of different events throughout the years. Food and beverage, I was doing all the audiovisual, lighting, sound, making things bigger and brighter.
Yep.
A cool event that we worked on that I really liked was Ribfest.
Yeah.
Which is your Rotary Club, Rotary Daybreak Rotary. Put on, and it was one of the most successful events that I've ever been to, I think. I've been to lots of events, and the thing that made it successful was it was for everybody.
Yeah.
And we had the whole park, it was like a Canada Day all the time, thousands of people in the park.
Over the course of the whole weekend, about 60,000 people would come through. Now, those aren't unique visits, but people that maybe came every day, and so the count overall was about 60,000.
I got counted, 20, 30 times?
Well, I counted you a lot of times, because you were coming and going a lot. I mean, you got to be honest.
And you had a beer gardens, which I thought was really well done. Everything was always first class. Beer gardens was not in the sun, it was in the cool, and I learned something really quickly, that if you go into the beer gardens to get your ribs, they came out faster, and you didn't have to wait in line. And so that was, to me, like,
hey,
that's the secret.
That's the secret.
I think I just let it out.
You did, but I'm hoping that a lot of people see that, and then when we fire up Ribfest again, they come down and they do exactly what you said. Go to the beer garden, order your ribs.
And I'm so excited about seeing that event happen again. One of the things that I really liked, and I know it's really near and dear to your heart, is supporting local musicians.
Absolutely.
And we had all day long bands, and part of that, we'd have a big stage set up, we'd have the LED video walls, but we'd also transmit video and audio to the beer garden so that they felt like they were included, even though they were hundreds of feet away. And I know that you gave chances to bands, and it was always really great, and you treated them so well. So Much Fresh is Best, another great Kamloops company.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Colin.
But how did that event start?
You know, it was an interesting thing. I was new in Rotary, and I was asked. They said, Bryce, you've done some events. We're kind of thinking of doing this event. Would you show up at a planning meeting? So Jim Anderson was the president of the club at that time from VK,
Yep.
and of course, you know, he said, come on down and we'll get together. We'll utilize the boardroom and have this meeting. So of course, we all gather and we're talking about Ribfest and here's what's going on. And Ontario's done a couple of them, and Guelph and so on. And we've got all the information on it because it was done by a Rotary Club, and in true Rotary form, nothing is proprietary. We share all of that amongst each other.
Yep.
So, you know, away we go, and so we're talking about it, and he says, well, you know, we're kind of thinking of doing it in August, and, you know, the Ribbers are interested in coming through because they're kind of from Calgary on through to Vancouver, and this would be a great stopping place. And
One thing that's great about Kamloops.
we're a center and a hub for everything, right?
Yep.
And so anyways, that was great. And then, so I'm going, oh yeah, I think that's doable. And of course, I'm thinking in my mind, not this coming August, I'm thinking the following August, because I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's a big project. We're going to need probably, 16, 18 months to plan this. And they went, no, Bryce, we're talking this coming August, which was 7 months out.
7 months out, yeah.
And I'm going, 7 months, and you want to put on a 3-day festival with ribs and musicians and beer gardens, and I'm going, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they kind of looked at me and said, in true Rotary form, we will make it happen.
Make it happen.
And
yeah.
I said, I'm in.
So many volunteers from Rotary, so many community people come out to that.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm always inspired by is that you form a committee, and those committees just make things happen and do it really well.
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, they power through it, they make it happen, and so, without all of the great work from all of the people on those committees, it wouldn't happen. But of course, with COVID on, we've had to kind of pull back and do some things, but we're on track for 2022.
Speaking of COVID, that's shut down our industry totally. I know the food and beverage industry.
You and I were sitting together when it happened. We were
a year ago.
A year ago, we were sitting in the chamber AGM and kind of sitting there side by side chatting, and all of a sudden the feeds started coming, and I know you and I both looked at each other and I went, oh no, look at this, like
Something's
another event canceled and blah, blah, blah. And you said, oh yeah, look at this. I just had 2 more. And it was like, and I think the depression started to set in very rapidly.
Yeah.
In reality.
So it's been really tough for that. And Ribfest is going to be postponed again till next year,
Yes.
which is great.
Yeah.
We all have to do this.
Yeah. Not what we want to do.
And it's going to be really great. So
Yeah.
I think sometimes realizing that you've missed something is going to make it better as
Yeah.
we go. Something else that you're part of is you're the president of the North Shore Business Improvement Association.
I am.
And man, oh man, is the North Shore ever doing a lot of things. You drive down that Tranquil Road, and anybody that's not from Kamloops, it's not tranquil, it's tranquil.
Tranquil, yeah.
It's just everybody has problems with that.
Tranquil. I had at the charrette that they did for the planning charrette, they brought people in out of Vancouver, right?
Oh, I'm sure that was hilarious.
And it was so funny because every time they would get up and the consultants would start talking, they would call it Tranquil.
Tranquil Road,
and
yeah.
it was tranquil, and they said, so because it's so tranquil over here, we're going to create this, and I'm going, excuse me, but that's not the right pronunciation.
You just deflated their whole tire, right?
Yeah.
But there's lots of things going on. There's lots of building, lots of expansion. It reminds me kind of Kitsilano. You go into
Yeah.
Vancouver, just go over the bridge, and it's got this really vibrant community that's really opening up and doing some great things.
Yeah.
What's new and exciting with your world there?
Well, in my world over there, I mean, we've got a number of things going on. I talked about the planning charrette that's underway. The city is working on a redevelopment plan on the shore right now, and I have to say it's been a great process. The city has been very supportive. They've been very open to ideas. Brought in some excellent consultants to pull some things together. And I think the biggest thing is that we're really going to try and celebrate some of what's already on the shore. I think, a lot of people get the idea that when you're going to do a redevelopment plan, that you're just going to flush everything out and you're going to start all over. Well, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so in this redevelopment plan, we're looking at the lands that just as you're coming off the bridge into the shore, so you've got Riverdale Trailer Park and so on. That's a large block of land in there. That's almost 11 acres.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so, right in the city. and right on the waterfront. And there's a whole redevelopment plan that's underway for
Should do a
that
water
area.
park.
Yeah, it'll be a water park, the river. So, I mean, you're going to have all of that area in there, and it'll tie in with what's on Larkspur and Wilson and those
Wow.
areas. And what we're looking to do is develop that more along the lines of something to do with a warehouse, business on the bottom, live on the top, a warehouse district, basically.
Nice.
So that'll be kind of that area. And then as you move through the center, it'll be more cultural in the midsection of the Tronquil Market Corridor.
Yeah.
And that's just because we've got all those great little houses and quaint little places. Why would you want to destroy that and say, okay, let's level it and put high rises in? That isn't what the shore really is.
Yeah.
And so, it really was to celebrate that and to say, so the direction that we're going to go is to try and encourage some infill and certainly some, multi-unit development off that corridor a little bit to substantiate those businesses, but keep it as a little bit more of a low-rise area. And then as you head out towards Fortune Drive and Tronquil, where they intersect on the way out to the airport and 8th Street and so on,
Yeah.
that area there becoming more of a hub, and the whole idea will be to entice more high-rise, more development. So you're going to have a warehouse district, sort of a mid-range, low-level, and then moving into a high-rise district that kind of takes you into that hub center, which is that interchange of traffic coming
Awesome.
from west side, the airport. This is a corridor of people coming, to see our city. So that whole corridor out towards Tronquil area will all be revitalized and developed.
Wow.
And with the development of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, there'll be some dollars that we're hoping to garner out of that. They've promised us some money to help with beautification down that Tronquil corridor.
Yeah.
And that's the gateway to the city with
Right.
our airport. So we need that right across the board. It's for the greater good of Kamloops.
Less pulp mill, more beauty.
Exactly.
Well, Bryce, it's been a pleasure having you on.
It's
I
been
hope
great.
that we can have you back on again.
Love to.
And I think that you and I need to go to Monty Creek and see if we can find Billy Miner's hideout.
I think it's a great idea. You and I have spent some time out at Monty Creek Ranch Winery doing
That's
a little
right.
work out there.
Yeah.
We'll just maybe grab a couple of horses and ride up the back and find out.
I'm great on a horse. So, anyways, up next with the Mike's interesting instrument of the week. You're going to love it, and I've got an amazing story to share with you. So Music Life with Mike is one of those things that is really near and dear to my heart. It's showcasing things about Kamloops, and a great representation of that was Bryce Herman that we just chatted with, being a born and raised Kamloopsian and doing a lot for the love of our community. Every week I also go up to our family's music store roof and pull down a weirdo instrument. This week is no exception. I've got a collection that we started in the 80s, my dad and I, and they were in my basement, and we just ended up putting them up on the roof of the music store. And they're really interesting instruments, and each one's got a story and means something to us. And this instrument is something that is one of those pieces here. It's a Odyssey bass, this particular one is, and it was made right here in British Columbia. And I'm really excited because in Kamloops, we have a guy that is probably almost as neurotic as I am about instruments and lore and history and innovation. I've got Craig Jones, who wrote a book called Odyssey, Attila Below, the maker of Odyssey guitars, and he actually wrote a book, and I'm going to call you historian and an author. How does that sound?
That's great. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. These instruments are super cool. This is one of your guitars, and is this the one from the cover of your book?
It's not actually, no.
Okay.
No.
They're really cool, really high-end woods. If I'm looking at it, it looks like maple, bird's eye maple, cap, which is a Canadian wood here. It looks like it's got an ebony fretboard, which is not Canadian. But all the bridge pieces and everything made out of brass, which was, a lot of companies did this at that time. When I was in high school, I had a Attila bass that had a badass bass bridge made out of brass. So I'm not sure if that has anything to do with Odyssey or not, but when I look at these guitars, I see a lot of really cool craftsmanship kind of things, and a tragedy happened which stopped them from being the next PRS or Gibson. Tell me a little bit about Odyssey and Attila and how you got involved.
Yeah, well, Attila, as it turns out, was came to Canada as a child immigrant from Hungary after the revolution was suppressed, and ended up in Vancouver, and became, at a very young age, a sort of master woodworker. Mm-hmm. But he was also a guitarist. And to make a very long and interesting story short, he and two partners in Vancouver, Ken Lindemere and Joe Sally, formed this operation, Odyssey Guitars, and they're very young, sort of late 20s, early 30s throughout this whole period. And they just said, we're going to build the world's best guitars right here in Granville Street in Vancouver. And, darned if they didn't come pretty close. Like you say, they're sort of relics of a period, right? I mean, there's alembic guitars, kind of similar, construction. Everyone was thinking neck through body was the way to go.
High mass bridges.
Exactly, yeah.
Hence the brass.
Yeah, I mean, you pick that thing up and you feel it, notwithstanding that it's a very slim guitar.
A friend of mine has a double neck, one of these, Mario Consalvo.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And it's heavy.
yeah. They're a workout.
Yeah.
But absolutely beautifully made. And speaking of Kamloops connections, the fellow that laid down the finish on that very guitar was the master painter at Odyssey in the final years, his name's Tom Bundich, and he, after Odyssey folded, became a teacher and came to Kamloops and spent his entire career teaching woodshop here.
Really?
And he's now retired, and probably one of the best people in Canada at finishing electric guitars. Lives just down the road, and nobody knows it because he doesn't do it anymore. He does fine wooden jewelry.
You will have to put me in touch with him.
I'd love to.
As a guitar builder and finisher, it's always great to meet these guys.
It's amazing what's right under our noses.
Right here. We just have no idea.
Yeah.
DiMarzio pickups.
Yeah, they developed a very early relationship with Larry DiMarzio, and they were very, very loyal to each other. In the book, I have some pictures of DiMarzio ads from the 1970s that featured Odyssey guitars, and he wound custom pickups for them. He did anything they wanted. They built the world's largest guitar as sort of a shtick.
I saw it's for sale right now for
$13,000.
It's
in California right now. We're trying to repatriate it. That's a bit of a project.
Oh wow!
But Larry built, bread box size DiMarzio pickups for this world's largest guitar thing, and shipped them up to Vancouver.
So now, Attila started in 1978?
Yeah, 76 was when the company built its first Odyssey guitar. He'd been building guitars one-off as a luthier, and then he kind of merged with Iron Music, which was a shop in Vancouver that was kind of the hip guitar shop at the time. And that was where Joe Sally and Ken Lindemere were, and so they hooked up together and formed Odyssey Guitars in 76, and they ran it until late 82 when things collapsed in the economic.
That was a really tough time. I know
downturn.
my mom and dad went through that collapse here in Kamloops with the music store, and it was really tough times.
Interest
rates went up to 18-20% or something like that.
It was sure not the time where you wanted to be making exclusive high-end electric guitars, right?
Yeah.
So in the end, they built about 2,000, and probably 1,000 are the sort of pure high-end Odysseys, and then the rest were a mix of everything from cheaper bolt-ons to sort of mid-level models like the Hawk 400 here.
That one that I have there, yeah. So that was another one. It was actually funny because this morning we're prepping, getting ready for you to come in to chat with. And Mark, our store manager, I pulled down the one that's actually right beside you off the roof, and Mark says to me, we have another one. I think it's in storage. I remember seeing it when we were moving stuff around, and I was like, nah, I'd remember if we had another Odyssey or something kicking around. And Mark goes, no, I think so, and he disappeared. And he came back 10 minutes later with this bass, which is basically the what model is he?
That's the B100, yeah.
And this is the G100?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's it's really I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
And, I love obviously they did a lot with brass because they were building all their own parts.
Yeah.
Were they making their own strap buttons?
They did,
too?
yeah. There's a guy named Scott Bourgeois who did most of the brass carving and polishing. Did it all in house, and even the knobs, And they sold the knobs. They sold the pickup rings through DiMarzio, through their arrangement with DiMarzio.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it was.
So DiMarzio is one of the biggest pickup manufacturers in the world.
Yeah.
Joe Selly,
Right.
after this, went on to run a distribution company called Great West.
Yep.
Great West Imports, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And we bought DiMarzio as a music store from him. Did all sorts of things with his company. So
Yeah.
when I was, I'm going to read your book. I haven't finished it, but I started to do my Miltimore speed read through it. And it was quite interesting. I can see a lot of parallels.
It's a fascinating story. I mean, and that's what sucked me into writing a book. I had no intention of doing that when I started researching the guitars, but it really is fascinating. And so many of the people are still around with great memories.
Ray Verrill, I saw.
Ray
yeah.
Verrill was the manager of Iron Music during this whole period, and
Yeah.
the man has a memory that is astonishing.
He's still sales rep for us to this day. He sells us Levy's and Morgan. And,
Yeah, we got together for, we worked together at Tom Lee Music in Vancouver, in the Rock Pit as it then was,
Yeah.
a little time after this. But yeah, terrific guy. We had lunch last time he was cruising through town. But so many of these guys were so available and were still willing to share. Ken and Joe, the partners, gave me more or less carte blanche. A lot of the former builders, people had kept brochures and drawers and, crazy documentation. Tom Bunditch, the master painter I was
Sure.
talking about, had kept his paint records from like a 6-month period, which was like the Rosetta Stone of deciphering serial
Sure.
numbers, paint codes, all that kind of stuff. So it was really like a bit of an archaeology project to get in there and geek
Yeah.
out.
As a guitar builder, and having a music store, I remember going through trying to figure out dates, and especially with the debacle of Gibson,
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
horrific those numbers are. So I tried to do a very linear, very simple serial number scheme with our guitars.
Right.
I was telling you about it earlier on. It's just numbers. It was built in our family's music store in the basement, the original period. Our number, all chronological, was built at our guitar factory.
Yeah.
And then when I built our new factory and moved it in here, it's all L numbers, right?
Right.
Just for that reason.
Well,
so that
God
it's
bless
simple.
you for going easy on your future historians. But one of the funny things about Odyssey serial numbers, because that was one of the great mysteries of what do they mean.
Yeah.
They actually follow a pretty strict protocol, but they just changed the protocol in 1978 and added 1,000 onto the production number.
Yeah,
just
made
to
it
make
sound
it
bigger.
Exactly, to make it look like they were a bigger operation than they were,
Yeah.
right? But as a consequence, collectors were messed up for decades trying to figure that out until we actually went down and drilled down into the serial numbers and talked to the people that were
realized
that were building them.
Well, there's lots that go on when you're building and creating. I'm sure they went to the NAMM show.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
good friend of ours, Bill Filek, we did a story on his drums. I actually have one of his staccato drum kits right over there.
Right.
In that same time period, they
Yeah.
were innovating and creating drums. Some
Yeah.
of the world's best drums right here in Kamloops.
Yeah.
So it
I
was.
think they might have shared a distributor too, and we had Jean Larrivée was very close to Attila, and they went on. Back when marketing guitars wasn't a web page, it was driving around to every little town across Canada with
It's still like
trunk
that.
full of guitars.
I've done it. I've gone all over Europe, all over the place. Yeah.
So so the that was the way they were kind of going about it. But Jean Larrivée gave me an interview for the book, and Robert Gaudin, who was another contemporary
Amazing
of the
Canadian
period.
builder, yeah.
Yeah, and last man standing, really, among that generation.
Yeah.
Larrivée's relocated to south of the border. Gaudin is doing great guns. J.K. Lado, I think, is retired or just on the verge of it. So yeah, it's fascinating. It was a hive of creativity, in that period. And
they talk about innovation cycles of companies. Fender had theirs when they were making the Telecaster broadcast, Stratocaster.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the short flash that these guys were building guitars, 5 years,
Yeah.
they were right in their innovation cycle.
Yeah, I mean, they really were. They had, Bill Bartolini and DiMarzio were their great friends.
Yeah.
So they were completely plugged in, and they were building a guitar that, when I first saw the carved top Odyssey, I thought, Paul Reed Smith copped this idea, right? It turns out almost certainly that wasn't the case. But Paul Reed Smith wasn't even aware of it. But but the design inspirations in common are, unmistakable. The sort of Les Paul double cutaway, carved top.
It's a beautiful design. I'm proud to be from basically the home place.
Right.
British Columbia,
Yeah,
where all
yeah.
the best woods in the world come from, and the guitar. So they met. One of the tragedies I referred to earlier on is that in an industrial accident,
Yeah.
Attila died.
Yeah.
A piece of equipment fell on him late at night that he was trying to secure,
Right.
which is sad. And do you feel that that's obviously probably what killed the company,
Well,
and also
The company had gone out of business, and he had moved. He was very good friends with Ray Ayotte, drums only, and so Ray Ayotte immediately snapped him up because no one could finish wood like Attila,
Yeah.
and so they worked together for a period of time, and then in fact, in the same factory that used to build Odyssey guitars, they were making Ayotte drums.
Oh, interesting.
And that was when the accident occurred. And because Ayotte bought all of, or much of, the equipment, it may well be that the sander that fell on Attila, killing him, was one of the very sanders that made these guitars. So there's that great irony to it. And maybe most ironic of all, the night that he died, he was out with a couple of friends from the industry, and they were machinating about rebooting Odyssey. And Attila was writing designs on a napkin, and they were pretty enthusiastic. And then he had this accident, and it must be said that these people drank an awful lot. As young men, and if you listen to Joe Saleh, as Hungarians in particular, and Attila was very drunk when he died that night, and so that just adds. One wonders what the company could have achieved earlier, and what Attila could have achieved personally if it wasn't for his personal demons. But
with great genius also comes that other side.
I don't see much of that in you, Mike. I'm waiting to see the dark side of Mike.
The dark side. Oh, look out. Have you seen me play drums? I'm a destroyer of music. So your book. You can get your book. It's on Amazon, is it right?
Amazon, Chapters online, Barnes & Noble in the States, one or two other smaller sites.
Hardcover, softcover is available. And what's the cost of the book?
I think it's $25 or $26 for the softcover, and another $10 maybe for the hardcover.
Awesome. Great read. I think you're going to really enjoy the book. I've enjoyed my interview with you. I've learned a lot about some of the weirdo instruments I have on the ceiling, and that's what I love to do. And up next, we're going to be chatting with Paul Filek, Kamloops swooner. Kamloops' original swooner? I don't know. But Paul Filek's going to be up next, and you'll love him too. So my next guest is Paul Filek. Paul has been around Kamloops, or was around Kamloops, for many years, and I've come to know him as a great singer-songwriter. He's in it for all the right reasons. He loves music. He's a creative guy. He keeps popping back up. He moved to Vancouver to further his career, but he keeps coming back to Kamloops, and I keep bumping into him, and we've always had fun with me doing sound for him, and I'm so excited to have him here for our interview. Paul, how are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me. This is so cool.
This is we were talking about passions. This is one of my passion projects. I really wanted to showcase Kamloops and showcase kind of what we're doing in our community, and as a musician from our community, you're doing such amazing things. And I just saw recently that you've started doing these online shows.
Yes.
How's that been going?
You know what? I kind of just threw it out there because, for the last year, everyone's been talking about the new, what do you call it? The
New normal.
The new normal,
Yeah,
new
yeah.
normalcy. And well, after a year of everyone hanging out on Zoom and stuff, I thought, hey, maybe people actually are missing concerts enough they might hire a guy like me to, put on a show for them at their house, or they can. So basically, a month ago, I threw it out there. $75 per half hour. You can hire me. I'll play for you and all your friends. I've got 150 songs you can pick from, plus a whole bunch of originals, or you can request songs. We'll have to work a deal out on that. But yeah, it's been crazy, man. I can't believe people are doing it. And what else I can't believe is how much fun it is. Because, like, the first time I did one of these, it was very weird because no one is talking to you. You're in your own room. You finish playing a song. It's crickets. But what's really fun is if you're watching in Kamloops and you have a friend that's watching in Kelowna and a friend over here, and you're all not together, but you're watching, I get to watch everyone texting and typing to each other and singing, and I don't know, man. It's a totally different experience, but it's so cool.
Well, one thing that I noticed is that you're doing actually a really amazing job. Your website, by the way, is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
I was on there, it's creeping on you a little bit, and
That's where that hit came from.
That guy in Kamloops, that was me. But you do looping as well, which I've seen your live shows that you've done, and that's something you've incorporated over the last few years.
Yeah.
You've had a great band. Some would say that what Bublé is to piano and singing you are to guitar and Kamloops. Have you heard that before?
I haven't, but I love that. It's funny because coming down here, I played a few places where, there are quite a few famous people or whatever that show up. And one time I saw Michael Bublé, and it was so funny because I never get starstruck. Mostly part of why I love Vancouver and bigger cities is, I don't actually do much, but I love the energy. So I love walking down the street and seeing 300 people lined up for a show that I didn't even know existed or whatever, right? So more than anything, if I see that type of stuff, I don't get excited to see someone famous. I just get excited about the energy and about, people are having a fun night out tonight or whatever. Yeah. So I saw Michael Bublé. By the way, this is a bad story, but I saw him. I was playing. I couldn't believe Michael Bublé was there, but his back was turned to me the entire time. So I was just like, man, I just want to see him. I want to see him. And when I finished, I was going to get my gear, and I found myself staring at him for 3 minutes as I was packing all my stuff up. And of course, he looked at me straight in the face. And
that's called the Kamloops stare, by the way. All guys do that. That's peacocks have the feathers. We have the weird, creepy stare.
Yeah. And he just said, "Hi, man, great job tonight." But I don't know. It's a horrible story, but Michael Bublé, man.
I thought you were going to do and I feel good. And he was going to turn around and sign you right there on the spot and be,
exactly.
Like a love story.
Didn't
or
happen.
No. Well, maybe next time.
Maybe.
I remember when we first met, in my memory, it was, I think, at Henry Small's recording studio. Does that seem
probably.
right?
Yeah.
And you recorded your first album there, I think. I think Henry helped you out with some songwriting and that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Henry totally molded me. He's like a second father figure to me. And so we worked 3 albums in Kamloops together, and that's totally how I met you, in that old basement studio.
In the basement studio, yeah. I built that for him, and that was a lot. Those were fun days,
Oh, man, yeah, so good.
I remember all that kind of stuff, and I remember when you first released your album, you got a lot of radio play here in Kamloops. Kamloops is supportive and
oh man, so supportive.
Loves what you do. And I remember coming into the office, and your YouTube channel would be playing in the office while the girls were working, and I was just like, oh man. And some of your early songs, I think Elephant Shoe.
Yeah, Elephant Shoes.
Yeah, Elephant Shoes, which it looks like you're saying I love you, but you're actually saying elephant shoes, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're like a lot of love ballads kind of a thing.
Totally.
Those early years, I mentioned that you were doing it all for the right reasons. Maybe not necessarily for the love of music, but for the ladies. Could that be fair to say?
Well, who doesn't play guitar for not the ladies or the men or both?
Or both, yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay.
Musicians, we're fluid.
I remember one day, I don't know if you remember or know where this story is going, but I was doing the Run for the Cure, the breast cancer
Okay.
run.
Yeah.
And I knew that you were legendary at that point because you showed up, you were working at night as a bartender, and I think you had a pretty late night the night before. and you were there with the guitar in the
man.
corner of the stage. You didn't look so well. And when they introduced you, you turned around and you went looking like death warmed over to, hey, everybody. And you played the song, you played your set. And at the end of the set, what brought you to legendary status in my mind is the lineup of women that were getting you to sign. You're right about there. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I hired all them. Yeah, I hired all them.
It was
Still
creepy that it
paying
was your
off.
mom and sister, but
Hey, man, times are tough. But you remember the story otherwise, so it's fantastic.
that's right. I didn't really know your sister and mom at that time. Yeah. So I know your uncle, Bill Filek,
Yes. Yeah.
who's got quite the history of music and in Kamloops in Canada. Is all your entire family musical?
First of all, I watched your episode with my uncle and my cousin, and I was super proud because, I mean, I've heard a lot of those stories, but it's just so neat to like, I don't know, that's my uncle. It's so cool. But yeah, the family, both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side, both very, very musical. I feel like my dad's side, because, you know, back in the day, there weren't DJs, so my dad's family was always like the wedding bands around town.
Yeah.
And I feel like my mom's side was more of like the wind instruments and violins and things like that. So put them together and boom, you create a Paul Filek. It's magic, man.
Yeah, it's crazy what happens. I can relate.
By the way, no matter who you are, your family reunions, it doesn't matter because when Bill Filek grabs a guitar, it's game over.
Yes. You know, I toured with Bill in all sorts of places. He loves to drive, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know he loved it, but I know he's put miles on.
We woke up one morning because he's our sales rep in Niagara in Eastern Canada. I woke up one morning. He picked me up from my hotel. We went from Niagara Falls to Thunder Bay in one trip.
Wow.
And at one point I had to pee, and I was like, Bill, I got to pee. He goes, we're almost there. And it was like 18 hours
6
of
hours of
driving.
pee.
It was insane.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? He's a hardworking guy. He loves the music industry, and he's like my uncle as well.
Cool.
He's like family. He's my dad's best friend, and it's great. The Felix
that's so
are well intertwined into the Miltimores,
Cool,
which is
man.
kind of interesting. Some of the interesting stories are my dad and your uncle
I
driving
bet.
all over the place to Chicago and to Anaheim, California, many times.
Man.
But you were born here in Kamloops.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Royal Inland Hospital. Yeah,
That's right, yeah.
It's something we have in common. And what are you working on these days? You're writing
Well,
music?
yeah, it's funny. It's funny. If Kamloops didn't support me so much, I never would have left. So I don't know if I should thank them or not. But hey, thanks, Kamloops. No, so yeah, I left Kamloops in 2008, which is crazy. April 1st. So what is that? Like 13 years or something now? Which
Doesn't
is
seem like that long
unbelievable.
ago. Yeah.
No, but this is the longest I haven't been to Kamloops because, so much work, so many friends, family, so much support, fans, friends. So I'm there quite a bit. This is the longest I've been away. But through my journey of leaving Kamloops to pursue music in Vancouver, a lot happened. And part of that was like, holy man, there's a lot of talented people down here. And sort of got like, I got punched in the face with other people's talent. And it kind of brought me down for a bit, and then I started doing the looper pedal stuff, and that started bringing me up, and things are going awesome, but I haven't been pursuing original music like I had back in the day. However, coronavirus hit. Next thing you know, there's nothing to do. I've had GarageBand on my computer for years. Finally started tweaking away at that. Well, here we are a year later, and I've taken some courses. I've been diving hard into music production and all this stuff. And hopefully in a few months, I'll have like a 10 or 11 song album I'll get to put out. So I don't have a deadline on it because I've always rushed myself on all this stuff. And I'm at an interesting point in my life or music career because, for a long time I was chasing that dream and fighting for it. And it's like you had to sell a CD. You had to have people listen to your music because if they don't, then you're not going to make that 5 cents, which is going to go towards your next gas and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, now I'm gigging tons, I'm making money playing music, and the exciting thing for me is I don't really care anymore if people listen to the music I'm putting out. I don't have the desire to have it out tomorrow because it needs to be done. So it's just,
You're doing
I'm
it for the
excited because,
right reason.
yeah,
for the
and
love
when
of
it comes
music.
out, you know, I mean, I should say, I obviously I want everyone to listen. I want, you know, the world to hear. But the point is that before it was sort of a life or death situation. I needed new material out for people to support so that they could support the train to keep me going, you know?
Yeah.
And I still need that support, don't get me wrong. But it's just, I'm at a different place, I guess. I mean, the dream's different. I'm still here playing music. Sure, I'd love to play in front of 1 million people every night. If that happens, oh my God, amazing. But it's not sort of like the only thing now.
Well,
you know?
I really hope Michael Bublé watches this and says, hey, I need that guy to open for me, and it just explodes for you.
He's like, man, that guy was staring at me for so long. I would
thought he
hire
was
him. but
creepy
I
at
just-
first, but I've come to know that all people in Kamloops stare creepy like that.
Yeah. Actually, Bublé, man, I used to play at a place called Doolin's all the time in
Yeah.
Vancouver. And that's the venue, before it was called Doolin's, is where he got discovered. So I'm kind of trying to follow secretly in his shadow there. So
In
who
his
knows?
shadow, yeah. Well, we've got amazing musicians here in British Columbia. I'm super proud to have you coming from Kamloops. I feel like I've watched you start from basically
Totally.
kind of learning how to sing and songwrite.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoy some of your live performances that you're doing. Your video editing and creativity is always been really great.
Yeah, I'm I'm trying to do a new video on YouTube every week. It's YouTube, just search Paul Filek, got a page there.
Yeah.
What else can I tell you? Oh yeah, hey, River Song Guitars. You guys saved my life. My last gig in Kamloops, which was like a year and whatever ago.
You know what? I remember the frantic call, and I think it was somebody tagged me on Facebook.
But yeah, by the way, Kamloops is amazing because I was literally 2 minutes before 15 minutes before the gig. I had everything ready to go. I plugged it in, and it was like, what? It's not working?
Your guitar.
Just
Yeah.
panicked, put a thing on Facebook, and literally within like 6 minutes, people had, gone through whatever network to get a hold of you, and you had tagged me, and,
Yeah.
30 minutes later, you were there with an awesome guitar. And so everyone out there, get a River Song guitar. That's the next guitar I'm going to buy, by the way. I love that one. I don't know what it was exactly,
that was
but
our-
it was awesome.
That was a brand new guitar that we came out with back then called the Pacific Series.
Yeah.
And it's our affordable performance instruments.
Oh, wow.
And
It's-
it was the P2P, which won a award for Editor's Choice from Music Inc. magazine. And
Cool. Yeah, man, it was beautiful.
yeah,
It was awesome.
high-end pickups. It's got our adjustable neck system on it. Everything. So I would love to get you fixed up with one of those when you're ready.
Totally. Yeah, man.
Hey, Paul, the first song that you sang, what was that about?
That song's called Wake Up, and it's just sort of a personal journey of my own.
Wake Up, Smell the Roses. Yeah.
Yes. Basically, it's just like wake up and, live your life, carry on, like move forward. Doesn't matter how deep or low you are, you just got to get going.
All right, and what's so that's fantastic. You're going to close out our show with another original song.
Okay.
What are you going to be singing?
This song's called Sunday. It's off my last album, which is way back in 2012. And it's a favorite of some of my friends in Kamloops. So here we go, Sunday.
All right, man.
Woke up this morning with the worst damn headache of my life. I had a late one last night, but the memories make it alright. I rolled myself right out of bed to find something for my head. Take it slow with a cup of joe. I'll think of the stupid things that I said. I'm glad you're here on Sunday, Sunday. I just wanna be with you on Sunday, Sunday. We can make our dreams come true. I don't care about around, grab a big breakfast with our friends. Well, you and I can catch a show. I don't want this day to end. Get tipsy on a bottle of wine and watch the sunset in the park. Kiss me slow, don't ever let go. It's you who won my heart. I'm glad you're here on Sunday, Sunday. I just wanna be with you on Sunday, Sunday. We can make our dreams come true. I don't care about Monday. Monday comes and I say, baby, every day's a Sunday with you. I can't wait to end. Do this all again on Sunday, Sunday. I just wanna be with you on Sunday, Sunday. We can make our dreams come true. I don't care about Monday. Monday comes and I say, baby, every day's a Sunday with you. Happy Sunday. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.